What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology, the Titans action, spawning in the red color, playing as Hades. His name is Nullus. His opponent today in the blue color, playing as Odin. His name is Mr. Boat. Mr. Boat, the great Mr. Boat, the wise Mr. Boat, the boaty, floaty Mr. Boat. We'll see how the game's going to go. Odin versus Hades. We've actually seen, I believe we've seen this matchup once already. In fact, we did. We watched Nullus taking on Soup's Odin, and Soup took the game into a really unique way, a really unique place, which honestly felt like it was nearly impossible, if not impossible, for Nullus to win that game, but somehow, some way managed to take the win against Soup after all of the strong positioning that Soup had kind of taken in the game. But it was very unique kind of game and game style from Soup there. We'll see if Mr. Boat's going to approach this game from a completely different angle here. He's got his villages. I mean, what can you really do? So let's talk about the matchup and the problems here for both civilizations that they need to kind of overcome. So one of the big problems that Hades needs to overcome in this matchup is the heroic age. He needs to be in the heroic age when his opponent is in the heroic age. It's vitally important. Why? Because he needs access to Hippaspis. Hippaspis are a really important part of the Hades army in dealing with things like Huskar, Ulfsark, throwing axemen even to some degree. So Nullus' game plan here has to somewhat revolve around keeping the knowledge of when the Norse could potentially be going to the next age, not overcommitting in the classical age, and making sure he can kind of chase down whatever that is. So he's got a couple of ways he can do that, like being really aggressive in the classical age, getting some, and then like trading back, and kind of once he realizes the aggression is over, all the resources in defense have been spent, you can kind of pull back, get heroic age, and then start going into some Hippaspis to make that work. Lots of other options there as well. Mr. Boat, on the other hand, the thing that he has to be very well aware of is that when you play Hades, when you play against Hades and you take a trade against Hades, every single unit you kill is contributing towards a shade being built, which simply just means that winning a fight is not actually winning. Barely winning a fight is not winning a fight. It's going even. So you've got to be careful with the fights you take, making sure you're able to beat them. Now, the good thing is that Norse, at certain points in the game, completely dominates the Hades army at certain points. So if you know your timings with Odin and with these gods, you're going to be able to find wins. So you do see a very strange build order here for Mr. Boat. What is he going for? This is the most rare build order I've ever seen. This build order from Mr. Boat, what is this? I can't explain it. I don't understand it. He still doesn't have his temple down. It's 3 minutes 42 seconds into the game. He doesn't have his temple down. I don't understand. I'm trying to piece together what he could be potentially strategizing. The only thing I can think of right now for Mr. Boat that makes any sense, and from a strategical point of view, it doesn't make sense, but from an age mythology point of view, like the kind of decision making he's made here in the early game, you could potentially find some logic, is fast heroic. That's the only thing here that makes any sense for Mr. Boat. Fast 3 town center? No. Here's the thing. With Norse, you don't need to worry. You don't want to advance late and start getting your town centers. You want to advance normally. You want to get your longhouse down. You want to get your military units out. And you want to be doing it that way. As we do see the classical ages hit there for Nullus. as there was a point there where Mr. Boat wanted to move forward onto that hunt, but I mean, there's really not that much hunt on the map. So in a way, this is kind of making sense. The thing is that there are giraffes somewhere on this map. And they're right here. There's a town center here as well that potentially Mr. Boat might want to grab. But Mr. Boat here is on this. He's getting himself husband. He's got plenty of herdables here. This is absolutely wild. I'm just flabbergasted. I don't even know. We're seeing a second town center coming up here for Nullus. And there, in all honesty, there's a chance here that a fast heroic and an all-in with throwing axeman, Huskal, and Walking Woods could be really tough for a 2-town center Nullus to stop. We see a longhouse getting dropped though for Mr. Boat, so I am so confused. Please, someone explain. Someone explain. All right. We do see the Raven flying overhead. We'll see the town center up for Nullus already. This is not something I recommend against Norse at all. Nullus is the only person who I've ever seen able to make this work. And I don't think he's able to make it work because it's a good strategy, just because he plays well. That's the only reason he makes this. Like, if his opponent were to play well, he would be able to beat this strategy, in my opinion. I do not believe that fast second town center against Norse is ever a good idea as a Greek player. That's from my own experience. And that just goes to show that maybe I'm just not a very good Age of Mythology player. But my experience says that it's crazy. We do see the longhouse is up. Watchtowers. Mr. Boat, what are you... Logically speaking... If you see your opponent go for 2 town centers, why are you getting watchtowers? We've got to be a little bit scared here. Mr. Boat is shaking in his boots. He's going for a town center here as well. All right, Ulfsar coming out. Spicy gameplay. We do see the Tusker boss checking out these giraffe over here as well, as Nullus is now starting to throw down some farms. Honestly, right now, Nullus could probably just think about going straight to the heroic age and having no problems here. In a battle of actually booming, 2 town center, 3 town center, whatever you want to call it, versus whatever you want to call it, Greek comes out on top in these kind of situations, especially Hades. But any of the Greek gods, if you go into like a 2 town center kind of boom war, Greek versus Norse, Greek comes out on top. It's just how it works. Because if you just don't need to build any military units, then the extra resources which the Norse gets just end up not being able to really make any difference in the game, because the units of the Greek just start getting so strong that even though Greek has got less overall resources, their units are just on another level compared to the Norse, which is why we don't generally see these kinds of plans from Norse here. As Mr. Boat, he's going to be running out of food here shortly. He's getting himself some raiding cavalry, looking for some raids, but there's not really a whole lot to raid here in this game, but we'll see how it's going to go. Walls are already up. Nullus throwing down his houses around his walls as well to secure his towers on another level. Now, the other thing is, while of all of the gods that can tango with Hades in the late game, a well set up Odin is definitely a god that has got a chance of taking out the Hades. The problem is that Hades has got so many more options to abuse in the late game that you have to worry about versus what the Odin can do. But the plan for the Odin in the late game is basically just to get to Fire Giant and Ballaster, right? If they can get to Fire Giant and Ballaster, they're going to be in a good position. But then they have to also worry about random Gas Graffiti taking their town centers down, random side builds they have to deal with as well. Also making sure you've also got some Frost Giants out to deal with any sort of Heliopoli raids, Underworld coming through. All these things are going to be difficult. So you do see the units pushing out, the villagers moving through into the middle of the map now to grab the Gazelle. Wouldn't be surprised to see Mr. Boat just grabbing a 3rd town center here, but there's really just not that much food on the map. So grabbing the armory and making sure he goes to the heroic age is going to be a really, really big thing here, as Nullus now throwing up more walls on this position over here. He's got his entire town centers well defended. He's got his home base here. He still hasn't got watchtowers. He hasn't overdone it. He can get watchtowers at any point. It only really takes, 20 seconds to train? 40 seconds to research. It takes a little bit longer than I thought, so maybe getting it a little bit preemptive isn't a bad idea, but it comes through relatively fast nonetheless, so you don't want to rush it out unless you need it. Hardest volley in the corner here also to be picked up, giving extra line of sight. Coverage of Horus in the middle of the map here is really, really important for the Hades to grab that, to deal with A, fire giants, and B, frost giants, and obviously C, Valkyries in this game. But Mr. Boat right now floating a lot of gold as the farm's starting to come down as well. Plow coming through here as well. The village is going to be finishing up on this hunt. There is still the giraffe over on the bottom corner of the map here as some units going to be pushing out, going to be looking for some sort of raids here, but not really a whole lot he's going to be able to get. I'm honestly surprised to see Nullus even building units at this point. Like, what does he need to defend? Obviously, there's a gold at some point he's going to need to defend, but Nullus can easily just go to the heroic age here. No units trained. You can also grab this town center early here as well if he so chooses. No real problems there. Walls coming up all over the place here for Mr. Boat. As we got both players have just accepted to play a 20-minute treaty game here, it seems. I mean, Mr. Boat, not quite. He's like, I'll love tap you a little bit with my units, but Nullus feels like he's playing a treaty here. As Skadi is coming through here now, and the units pushing into the base of Nullus. Not going to be able to find all too much to attack. There is this location over here that's kind of open. Plus, the gold villages over here. As the units are now starting to move across the map here for Nullus. He will be kind of greeted with towers and not a whole lot of opportunity to take things out. As the village is moving over here onto these giraffe, the Katoxikos does spot that one there. As a random villager over here has been spotted. Mr. Boat drawing first blood. 10 minutes into the game, the treaty is over. It's time to take the fight to the opponent. As Nullus trying to get his... Wait. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. If he didn't click anything, the villager would have died. As the villager's coming over onto this large gold mine, Nullus looking like he is going in for somewhat of an attack here onto these dwarves. Skadi about to hit. Plenty of resources in the bank right now for Mr. Boat. I wouldn't mind seeing Mr. Boat actually sneaking down all the way over to this gold mine right now to buy himself just a little bit more time. But maybe he feels like he can take these fights. He's got so many resources in the bank. We see the hill fort coming in. Nullus here, he's got one plan and one plan alone here, and that's forcing Frost. And I think that Mr. Boat doesn't really have a choice here. It's such a strong god power here that Mr. Boat has just thrown down to get up a hill fort and make sure his gold mine is safe. It's a perfectly safe gold mine over here that he could have been on and kept the frost away. Send the army over here to build the hill fort on this position. Once the units break through the wall, retreat the villagers over here and you're good to go. But now, Nullus, I mean, potentially here, Mr. Boat can finish off this wall on this position. And Nullus is going to possibly lose a whole bunch of units, and Mr. Boat's going to find himself with a really sizable advantage here, but there is still going to be restoration remaining, and these units here piling up on the other side here as Nullus ready to push through. Nullus still only in the classical edge, mind you, as the Huskal coming through. We'll see how this fight's going to be going in the near future here as the Frost just about to come out. The Huskal, though, you got to be careful that you position those onto the right units here as Nullus going to be pulling back. Restoration does get dropped down. There is still the hill fort on this position. Mr. Boat at 108 population. Plenty of resources in the bank to get himself like heavy upgrades here as well. We see the forest fire getting dropped down onto these Toxotes over here as they're going to immediately run away from that location there. We'll see if the hill fort's going to be enough here to help out as the Frost Giant does freeze the Minotaur over on that position. The Huskal still haven't managed to get in onto those Toxotes here as somehow, well, I would say somehow, some way, Nullus's army is winning this, but I think you can see where all the resources are of Mr. Boat. This is why the army is winning on this fight, but it does look like Nullus has to retreat there after all is said and done. Mr. Boat holds for the time being, but Nullus has got to be happy here. Nullus has got to be happy. He's traded Frost. He's traded Frost for restoration. No big deal there. He's got his 2 town centers up. He's got his army up. He's going to continue to put pressure on. I think Mr. Boat here has overdone it on food quite significantly here at this point as we see another hill fort attempting to get thrown up over here. How are the upgrades looking here for Mr. Boat? He does have himself shaft mine as the hill fort coming up is going to be attempting to get stopped at this point here. As the Huskal coming through, we do see the Frost Giant coming through here to help out as well. But with that secondary hill fort most probably going to be getting finished off, this means that Mr. Boat's going to have access to a lot of defensive buildings here to hold onto this gold mine for quite some time here. Not only that, we're still seeing villagers on the zebra over here. Mr. Boat starting to float a little bit of wood as the hill fort does come up. That's going to be more of these Huskal are going to be coming up, and Nullus has to retreat here. But Nullus getting closer and closer to the next stage. He's getting himself the third town center. Mining camp up on this position as well, as the walls are up all over the place. We do see the units pulling in onto this location, as it looks like Mr. Boat not going to be able to quite take that fight any longer. But I do think that right now is where the power balance kind of is falling into Mr. Boat's hands here. He's going to have to figure out something to do right now with his army. He's got to find some sort of an advantage here moving forward before that heroic age comes in for Nullus. Because Nullus is going to have access to Hypaspis really, really soon, which means that Mr. Boat needs to have access to something to defend against that, which is it's a difficult thing to do. I think the best army composition against this kind of thing of Greek is actually Ballister, but also you can, when the Hypaspis come out, you can also start thinking about getting yourself some raiding cavalry upgrades and everything else. As Mr. Boat retreating away, the wall's getting broken down here. Mr. Boat wants himself that third town center up and wants it up now. That's going to give Nullus the advantage to get to the heroic age, have access to the curse, getting himself sharp, find plenty of resources in the bank here. He's going to be able to rush to the mythic age here. And the big question is going to be, with Mr. Boat also going for a relatively fast second town center in this game, is this going to be a difficulty for Nullus here, as the army getting pulled off of the town center, as the hill fort getting torn down? We do see a handful of units coming through here for Mr. Boat to try and hold on to this location. Meanwhile, a little bit of raids coming through here as the raiding cavalry come in. Curse getting dropped onto this position over here as Mr. Boat drops down to 110 population. The dwarves can move over here for the time being. The town center is now up for Mr. Boat, but Mr. Boat, he needs to not overdo this fight. He's got all the resources in the bank. He just needs to get his units out to defend. How many military buildings does he have? This is a mistake that every single Norse player basically makes. He's got 5 military buildings sitting at 70 villages here. Compare that to Nullus over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 military buildings. Definitely time to be dropping a handful more here for Nullus, considering he's at 80 villages. Generally speaking, one military building costs about 5 to 6 villages to train from. So if you've got 80 villages, you're not training from villages anymore. You can afford to get something like 16 military buildings to support consistent production from. And obviously you want to get upgrades and everything else, but just saying it's possible. As Nullus pushing through here, those Huskal doing a lot of damage. We are now starting to see the Hypaspis coming through, and has Mr. Boat done enough here in this game is the big question. Nullus has got himself the wall set up. He's got himself a market in the corner. We do see that Mr. Boat trying to send his ox caravans through. They're getting caught up as the wall is completely set here, as Mr. Boat has not put any effort into securing that with walls or anything. Nullus finding an advantage where that's concerned, as the gate getting broken down over here. We do see the Achilles coming in onto this position. You need to snipe that down immediately here, but Nullus is microing around onto the Frost Giant very, very quickly, and now Mr. Boat has to retreat back. Both players getting themselves fortified town centers. Mr. Boat slightly farther in front here, but Mr. Boat's economy here, is he still getting villages out? It doesn't look like he is. Looks like Mr. Boat is stopping with only 66 villages. A very, very strange play there from Mr. Boat, as Nullus now is able to advance to the next stage. And in fact, he will be. And I would be surprised to see anything other than Hephaestus at this position. We potentially could see Artemis here with an idea of a potential gold star, but it does leave itself very, very much open to potential Ragnaroks coming through and a whole bunch of other scary things. But Nullus, he just wants to play it safe. Hephaestus makes so much sense here, as the armory of Nullus pumping himself in onto this position, making good trades here. Remember what we said earlier, that if Nullus trades equally with Hades, he gets the shades. He's able to kind of defend very, very easily against everything that comes out. Mr. Boat here at this point, his army, majority infantry, doesn't have himself heavy cavalry just yet, so Nullus is more than easily able to just go Hypaspis, Toxotes, and this once unbeatable army that Odin can construct in Huskarl Throw and Axeman is now not going to be able to do anything here, as we do see the walls getting broken down over here as a villager going to try and break this down as well. We see Mr. Boat coming up onto this position here. Bronze weapons coming through as well as the units trying to push through, wanting to break through maybe these hill forts. The hill fort's a little bit too strong here. One of the weaknesses of the Hypaspist is buildings, as it only does 6 damage per second. As the army here of Mr. Boat coming through, we do see the villager here will get taken out as the ox caravans can start making their way through. We see a hill fort getting dropped down. 2 hill forts coming down on this position. Will he be able to get them up and take this fight or not is the big question. Bronze weapons will be through for Mr. Boat for this fight compared to the 0 armor upgrades of Nullus, trying to wait for his Forge of Olympus here to get the max value, as the hill fort on this position looks like it will be getting up here fairly soon as the army retreats back. Hephaestus coming through as the hill fort is through now for Mr. Boat. Can he win this fight underneath the hill fort? Has a slight defender's advantage with that, as another hill fort coming up, as it seems like Mr. Boat, I mean, he does need to think about getting himself some sort of cavalry units to defend here. These frost giants will be falling at some point here as the elves start coming through to get some good damage. Forge of Olympus coming through, flood control coming through, champion archers coming through here for Nullus. He's getting all of the upgrades he needs, but it does look like Mr. Boat is able to hold on this position yet again. But the longer this game goes on, the more of these kind of half decent fights that Nullus takes, where it might not seem like he's winning, but he is getting closer and closer to his late game dream, making things very, very difficult for Mr. Boat here. Meanwhile, on the side of the map here, Nullus is not finished up here. He's getting himself barracks. He's getting himself side builds over here. Started the market now on the other side of the map as the units have kind of pushed their way through here. We do see a Colossus sneaking through onto this position here with heroes defending the Colossus as well. Nice play from Nullus there as the fortress is up in the middle of the map. Mr. Boat here has got himself 88 gold in the bank. This gold mine just about finished up. This gold mine just about finished up as well, as Mr. Boat has been attempting to find himself another gold mine. He is going to be going for this one a little bit later here, but when will Mr. Boat be able to get to the next age? What is he going to go for? I'll be surprised to see him not go for Ragnarok at this point. He doesn't need to click it. This is the big thing. Think about it from this perspective. If your opponent went Hephaestus, he's gone for a God Power, which does not deal damage immediately. It's kind of a long-form God Power, which means you don't need to click Ragnarok straight away. Whenever you see Hephaestus, Ragnarok straight away, not a necessity. You can wait, you can build up resources, get everything you need. But here's the thing, Nullus is not going to be allowing Mr. Boat that time he needs, as the Toxotes sitting in here. They're getting themselves bronze armor here, full bronze armor, as the army is completely melting through Mr. Boat's army. Mr. Boat going to be sending some Huskarl through, actually, as it looks like he will be able to defend here. That Thrum Frost Giant going to be more than enough. We do see the Perseus coming in. Perseus, such a big unit against Norse to take out the Fire Giants, the Frost Giants, everything here. As now we see the Frozen Colossus will be able to get taken down relatively quickly here, as Mr. Boat is floating so much food in this game. As the villager comes back in onto this location to finish off that wall there, Nullus is never going to be allowing that to stay down here. He's going to, well, I mean, at the moment his villager is idle, but he will be able to deal with that sooner or later, as the villager's coming onto this position trying to take that large gold mine away from Mr. Boat, but not going to be able to. Really nice play there from Nullus. That's like the last gold mine that Mr. Boat has here, so he's trying to shut Mr. Boat out of this game, potentially force some sort of an early Ragnarok. As Mr. Boat getting closer and closer to being able to click up to the next age. But at the moment, he's still kind of fighting down in terms of... Well, he's actually not down in terms of armor upgrades that badly. It's actually equal here in terms of armor. But obviously, those Toxotes are really, really strong. The Throw and Axeman here, do they have their Huntress Axe? They don't. It's a big upgrade to have for the Throw and Axeman. Really, really helps them. Because it's such a huge amount of bonus damage. I think it's plus 20% or something. Let me take a quick look at it. Yeah, plus 20% throwing axeman hack damage there, which is a really big deal. It's basically like getting bronze weapons and copper weapons all over again. As the army has to retreat back as the Frost Giant getting chased down by those heroes. Meanwhile, this gold mine just about to be expired there. Champion infantry coming through. Full iron now coming through for Nullus, as Balder is just about to pop for Mr. Boat. Meanwhile, the trade rat yet again moving in funny pathways. as the Frost Giant is able to come through onto that Heliopolis. This is a really big thing to do. You don't actually need to kill the Heliopolis. This is a defensive option that Norse has against Greek, which is you just freeze the Heliopolis. So long as you keep the Frost Giant alive, you see it costs 5 population. The Heliopolis also costs 5 population. So you can just kind of leave it frozen. As soon as it unfreezes, you freeze it again, and you can just kind of have one big myth unit there, and your opponent is short 5 population in the fight. It's one defensive maneuver, especially the same thing with Colossus and everything else. You don't necessarily have to kill the unit when it's frozen. You just kind of remove it from the fight, have some fun with it. Mr. Boat kind of running out of resources there. His gold mine has expired here. He's going to have to move over onto this position here. Nullus has got the buildings already in place with a wall to boot to raid that. As we do see the Heliopolis moving in onto this hill fort, going to be putting a stop to that one as well there. As the army trying to hold on desperately. Meanwhile, the walls are up yet again by Nullus, and the trade route has been stopped here. Mr. Boat now hitting the mythic gauge. One last-ditch effort, it looks like, as the Ragnarok getting clicked. 299 population here. Can Nullus hold here? How the buildings look. No building upgrades just yet. The unit's going to be able to power through here. 300 population, Ragnarok coming in to try and take out the Hades. There's a trade route set up. There's gold mines getting grabbed all over the map. There are gold mines all over the map here, which Mr. Boat needs to deal with. Pushing through these champion full iron Hypaspis is going to be absurdly difficult here for Mr. Boat. Nullus here, he's losing units completely, but they're getting replaced instantly at this point. Nullus still sitting full economy here, as the population is dropped already down by 30. That's 10 dead Heroes of Ragnarok here, as the Ox Caravans moving to their death right now into Nullus's main base. As we do see Watchtowers coming down. Architects has immediately come through as well for Nullus to try and keep him alive. As another fortress coming down on this position as well. The units pushing through over on the top side of the map here, looking to get in onto this corner to stop the trade route, stop the gold income of Nullus. But Nullus is continuing to stay strong at 160 population. The Rag pushing through here. We do see a Fire Giant coming in to this position as well. The Frost Giants coming through here as well to help out, taking some units out of the fight here as best as they possibly can. But the fortress getting cleaned up. Will the fortress on the back get cleaned up as well, as the Rag heroes do manage to find themselves some villagers? Picking off villagers is everything here. But look at Mr. Boat's economy here. He's got 8 Ox Caravans. They can't do anything here, as the villagers are going to be making a break through the gate over here. A handful of those champion Hypaspis coming through to deal with this. But the fortress is up on this position over here. All the gold right now for Nullus has been pushed off, but he's still got 14 donkey caravans. And as Mr. Boat's population drops down to 115 population, he does decide to tap out here. Nullus slowly inching his way through in this game, slowly getting closer and closer to this point where it's just impossible to kill him. I say it's impossible to kill him. It's not impossible to kill him. You need Ballista. Ballista absolutely shred this army of Nullus. If you can get them out, it can be really, really tough for the Greek army to fight that one-on-one. They have to go into kind of distraction tactics, hitting other locations on the map. But Mr. Boat, he didn't get the units out. He couldn't quite get to the heroic gauge fast enough. The strange build order at the start, I arguably set him behind, not going for some sort of semi-fast heroic, kind of wasting Frost if you ask me. And he just wasn't able to kind of take this game down the route that Soup took it down, finding any advantage here. And Nullus just kind of made it look hopeless in a way for Mr. Boat. There were points in this game where Mr. Boat kind of had that advantage, which if he pushed it a little bit harder, he could have made things really difficult for Nullus. But in the end here, Nullus too solid. Mr. Boat dropping here, and Nullus gets the first win in this series. If you guys enjoyed this game, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.